In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to resize an SVG file from Dreaming Tree using Brother Canvas Workspace. In this example, I am using the desktop version of Canvas Workspace. So the first thing that I need to do is import my SVG file. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side of the panel and click on the SVG icon, and you'll see that my window has opened here, and I do have my file saved on my desktop in the Minitote basket directory. So I'm going to go ahead and go in there, and then I'm going to go ahead into the SVG folder. Now for this example, I do have 3 elements that I need to do separately, but later in the video I will show you another option where you can resize all of these together. So the first thing that I need to do is select the first one and click Open. And now that it is on my virtual mat, I do need to make sure I click on it so that it is highlighted. I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side of the window, and I'm going to go to the second icon down and click on the Edit icon, and you will see Resize. So I'm going to click on Resize. Now we are going to resize by scale. And it's important that we keep the checkbox turned on under the Maintain Aspect Ratio. Now what this means is that whenever I change the width, the height would automatically change as well. And so anytime we move this, the ratios will be the same, and that's important when you're resizing things. All right, so if I make this number bigger, it's going to increase the size of this element. So if I want this to be 50% bigger, I'm going to type 150%. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see that that was enlarged. If I reverse that or undo that, I can also shrink it by making the number smaller. So if I make it 50 for 50% and click OK, you'll see that that element was reduced by 50%. So let me go back to the original size, and let's resize this by 80%. So I'm going to go 80. And I'm going to click OK. Now at this point you have a couple options. You can go ahead and send this to cut right to your machine if your machine is connected to Canvas Workspace, or you can save it if you wanted to use the file at a later time. If you did want to save the file to use at a later time, you can go ahead and go to File and Save As, and you're going to go ahead and give it a name. So you can either put this in a different directory, but it is important to name it something different so that you don't overwrite a previous file. So for this, I might say resized 1. So in my mind, I know it's I resized element 1 underscore 80 so that I know that I had reduced it 80%. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. All right, so now we need to clear off our mat and bring in the next file. So if I right click, I can click Delete. I can go ahead and click this SVG button and bring in the next one. We're going to do the same thing, but I did want to point out that if you do have score lines, you're going to want to make sure that everything is grouped together first so that you ensure that everything is resized together. As you'll notice, if I move the yellow piece aside, my score lines are not attached as of yet, and I want to make sure that everything gets sized together. So I'm going to undo that. The easiest way to ensure that everything is selected is go to Edit, Select All, and then I can right-click it and group it. And you'll see that now everything is grouped together. So I'm going to go over to the right-hand side and click on Resize. And just like the last one, we're going to do 80%. So it resized that to 80%. I'm going to do File, Save As. And this one we're going to say resized to underscore 80. And I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to bring in my very last one and do the same exact thing. Make sure it's highlighted, resize, 80, and File, Save As. We're going to call this resized 3. And that's exactly how you're going to do this. So for each element that is in your project, you will need to resize it exactly the same way. So now let me show you how to resize all of your elements at the same time. You're going to want to go up to File and Import from your computer, and you're going to want to select the first element. Now in this example, I am going to move this down and to the right, and I'll show you why in 1 second. I'm going to go to File, Import from your computer, and I'm going to select my main honeycomb. And now that's on my mat, and the reason why I moved the red element to the side was so that I could highlight this one and make sure I group the score lines. And now that those are grouped, they're all together, and import from your computer, and I'm going to select the green panels. So now I just need to move this element back. I just need to select everything, so everything is selected, and it's important to only drag from the corners at this point so that it maintains the aspect ratio, and you can make it larger or you can make it smaller. And all of these will be sized together so they will all fit together in the end. Now obviously you cannot cut like this, so what I would do is I would basically remove the elements that you didn't want to cut. So let's remove the yellow and the green, and you would go ahead and cut the red. And then I would remove the red, and I would remove the yellow so I could cut the green. And then I would remove the green and the red so I could cut the yellow. And so these are some alternative ways that you can resize. You can either resize all of them together, as in the last example, or individually, and you can either cut from that window or save them for future use. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you learned how to resize Dreaming Tree SVG files using Brother Canvas Workspace. Thank you.